Hey guys, thanks for bearing with me here. Got your analysis ready. I'm going to do it in two parts as best I can. Take a look. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Okay, guys, I'm going to throw this data at you pretty fast. The first time I did this, it turned out 15 minutes just for the first part of the analysis, so I had to delete that one and start over. Okay, the purpose of this part of the analysis is to look at the Pleasant Hill neighborhood specifically. So I went back to beginning of 2014 to get some of these comps. These don't count for appraisals, keep in mind, but I've learned not to sell to the appraisers and to market to them. They're just going to do their thing, and most of the time they'll come up with the value. If they don't, there's nothing we can do about that. But it doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to when they give me their appraisal that a buyer is willing to pay and when they're not. So that's why I like to go back and look a couple of years. What this showed is that this neighborhood is distinguished among those other houses in that area. So I'm going to hover over these. You'll see the price per square foot. This one right here sold for 110 a square foot. Let's look at that one real quick. You see tons of updates needed, but otherwise really clean. Looks good. Go to the next one. This I'm skipping next to the closed one. This one is 92 a square foot. It doesn't have any photos or anything. Usually that's not a good sign. Usually means it's in rougher condition. And now these two are pending. Keep in mind they are asking for 117 a square foot. They're probably closed within about $4 or $5 a square foot of that. And so let's look at this. This one is touch above the last one we looked at. That's a HUD home too, foreclosure at 117 a square foot. This one's 115 a square foot. Very stately appearance to the house, like your parents have. Very similar to their house, okay, in terms of the condition. So this is the map that we were working on just now. So what we're going to do is we're going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to pin this so that we are getting basically the same area, but without the Pleasant Hill name having to be attached to it. So we're trying to stay basically this side of Dickerson Pike, north of Old Hickory, etc. We'll go back to our. So these are the comps that I come up with when I'm working with within 6 months without crossing major highways and using the kind of same square footage range. We basically come up with this one active right here for 94 square foot. Let's look at that. Let me see, use some updates here. The 94 square foot is a little low and a lot for this condition. And a lot of that comes from the fact that the basement is calculated in there. We're not going to be calculating that in. And then let's go to the next one here. Well, this one again, that was active, so it wasn't for sale. This one again is active, not for sale, but it has a contract, 105 a square foot. Cute little house. Very old house. I much prefer your parents' brick house. However, this one is on some acreage and looks really nice. So very good comparable. Now these are pending, so these already have a contract, 117 a square foot. This one was actually in our last analysis as well because it just happened to be within 6 months. The HUD home. Again, 115 a square foot. Under contract. Same one that we had before, also within 6 months. This is our best comp in my opinion. And the one without photos. So what you're looking at, I forgot to add the square footage there. So on this one, sales price of 92 a square foot. So it'll be very interesting to see how these shake out, these three, because this one has a contract, this one is pending, that one's pending. What that tells me is they're probably selling within $2 a square foot of list. Maybe, let's just say 4, being that market's a little bit softer. So what you're looking at there is you're probably selling right there between 100 and about 113 a square foot, with an actual closed comparable of 92 a square foot. And that's reality. We can't ignore those closed ones, but it does tell us which way the market's going, and that is actually a solid little area right now, which even to my surprise. So, all right, now for the geeky fun stuff. I've already broken down these numbers on separate sheets of paper and in my calculator, so you don't need to follow the math necessarily, but I just wanted to run over some things. Here's are the factors determining the value. Square footage, the past sales, condition of the property, updates completed, basement square footage, if that is finished, basement square footage, and garage space. We have selected enough comparables to account for all these. Here's subjective factors. I know this in your house, so this probably isn't as important, but these are the things that sometimes hurt values, or people have an inflated idea of what helps the value. This one particularly, people think pools make their house worth a lot. In Tennessee, it literally more months of the year than not goes the other way around. The quality of the basement square footage, people sometimes think that it's always worth half of the upstairs value. Rarely is that true. Outbuildings, and then new home competition is always a problem. So not assuming that there's a lot of personal ties here that would make you overvalue the house, but these are some of the things. So when we go to closed comps, that's where we really look at reality. This is not, in my opinion, of the house as a living space or as what I value the house at. This is just the cold hard data for what we're looking at being able to sell the house at. It comes up at $93 a square foot for our best, most like comparable sale. We don't know where the appraiser is going to go with the other two comparables, but they're most likely going to bring it down just a little bit. So 93 is, even though being conservative in the sense that we had two other actives and pendings that were going to be much higher, we have to recognize at this given point, this is our best numbers on the books for a similar house. So we'd be looking at 163. Might be a little disappointing. I'm not sure if you guys were expecting that. But now we're going to go into what I call fantasy land. This is the best case appraisal. That means that we're going to get some of these closed out within $110 a square foot, and they are much better comps than going over Dickerson Pike or going to another neighborhood that's not called Pleasant Hill, in which case we could be looking at as much as 110 a square foot. Now this is best case scenario. This is like if I get to get in the appraiser's head and let him pick these numbers and what it could possibly finance for. Now in between those two numbers at sales price of 195 and 163 is where the buyer is really active. So the buyer is going to value that house somewhere in between there. If they value for more than 195, it's not very relevant, simply because the appraiser is not going to come up with it, and that's best case scenario. Is not going to come up with it. So for my marketing price, I'm suggesting 179 if we clean the house up and go straight to market. I think that would be our kind of solid best case scenario number. We may negotiate down to 175, 169, something like that. That would be taken into consideration that the market is going up, and we should be selling for more than our past comps. And in the old days, I'd have to sell for at comps at best case, and sometimes below comps. But I think that's a very solid marketing price. Now the ROI analysis I did for you as well, and this is if you want to say move out of the house and get it jam up. Here's what I was looking at: the stigma items, which we've talked about, and I can put those on a separate spreadsheet or document for you. They need to be removed. The most important thing about the stigma items is it keeps people from ever making an offer. So we can't really value those things in a like it's going to bring us this much less or it's going to bring us this much more. These are the things that even if I'm selling a house that looks perfect, I sold one the other day, it was in excellent shape, and I still had the guy come back and put some wiring and junction boxes that should have been in junction boxes. Any of these things probably cost $200 for somebody to have done, but it raises a red flag. What if all the electrical looks like this? What if all the workmanship was this sloppy? Is this going to be a problem? So those stigma items really need to be removed to get top dollar. We talked about that, the brick, mostly the partition walls in the basement where there's already termite damage. Uh, Decluttering the whole house and cleared of most of the personal belongings. It's not that you couldn't stay there. Your parents being the age they are, I think it would be really hard for them to remove all the personal photos and things like that, and understand that that's just a part of the marketing process. So it may be that there's no middle ground there, that they would have to go ahead and buy a house and move into it, and then that would let us stage this house for sale. If we do go that far, the next step would be to have it painted out. So that's up to you guys in terms of personal relationships and how that works. You know, I can get a lot of folks to disregard a lot of their personal stuff, and keep in mind that at this point you've already decided to divorce yourself from the house, so let's make it a little a showcase and live in a little show home for a little while. But it may be better in this case to go ahead and purchase the next house. So with that in consideration, with those items completed, my marketing price would be $199 with a final sales price of around $189. And so again, assuming that these other ones close and that we get adjustments from the appraiser for the things about our house that will then be better. I think that's pretty solid. I don't see much. Usually in an old neighborhood we have a lot more spread in all these numbers, but I feel pretty confident that we're going to be as is somewhere between 163 and that 179 price, or as is with just the minimum cleanup and whatnot. And then best case scenario, we could be just under 200,000, most likely settling for closer to 190. So as a matter of return on investment, I think that going in there and doing the work while your folks are there could be more difficult, but I do think that if you it would be time well spent if you could get it cleaned out. If you have to hire it out, then you're probably looking at spending 10 grand to not necessarily make a lot more money. I still want to see the rot gone no matter what downstairs. I think it's going to be a big red flag, but that should help you guys make a decision on that part of it. And I'm going to break down the Gallatin market in just a second, and I'll send that over to you. Thank you.